Yeah, for me, it was kind of a natural progression. The rock came first, then came the jazz, and at the end, the things kind of merged naturally. So
Yeah.
I started out as a rock player, obviously, then went to conservatory from age 13, and my teacher was a big jazz guy, so he let me play in big bands and jazz ensembles, and he gave me like one-on-one jazz instruction, and those things for the longest time were completely separate world. Same with my college education. The college was largely based around jazz, and I
Okay.
could
Yeah.
only play rock music in my free time, really. So after an hour of doing the assignments, I would uh, then follow my hobby, which was playing rock music.
Yeah.
And I guess at the end, those kind of things, my rock tone and my rock articulation and rock attitude, just merged with the kind of knowledge that I got from the jazz education. So a lot of people want to go from rock to Guthrie Govan immediately,
Yeah.
and they assume that's what I did. Oh yeah, in 2007 he heard Guthrie Govan and started becoming a fusion player. I was a fusion player since 2004 or something. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I was already, or even before college. I was probably by the time I was 17, I already played fusion. So or well, fusion at the time I was playing Mike Stern tunes, because let's say that was the only way to get my teacher to let me use distortion in class. So
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. That's
so that was
cool.
the jazzy, the rockiest it would go in those lessons.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, that was it. It was my passion for rock music and my parallel education in jazz that I had, that eventually I combined, for better or worse.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, for better, believe me. Now, did you find like studying jazz first, uh, using these outside tones or different harmonic choices over these extended chords, did that help with your ear accepting these outside tones? Because I know uh, a lot of rock players, when they do try to play outside, it just doesn't sound right, and they don't like the sound of it. And maybe they haven't digested the feel of that outside tone. You know, do you feel like keeping rock and jazz separate at first help you get a better understanding of those outside notes?
Yes, because you mention outside notes, and I don't think that I ever really play outside.
Even passing
Like
tones, like a
I play a lot of alterations and chromatic passing tones and those
yeah,
kind of things. Yes, I do that, but to me that's not outside playing.
right,
To me that's largely tied in with the harmony, because I'm approaching certain chord tones deliberately on certain spots within the bar. To me
gotcha,
that's not outside playing. Likewise, if I play a flat 9 over a G of an altered G7 chord, to me that's not an outside sound. To me that's inside the harmony.
right,
And real outside playing, like sort of ignoring the harmony and playing something completely different, that happens very rarely in my playing.
right, right,
Maybe I'll just superimpose like a symmetrical diminished idea, like triads going up in minor thirds over a static minor chord. That is
gotcha,
pretty much as outside as my playing gets.
right, right. But with the passing tones and that, and maybe something that isn't in the key center, but can create an extension on that chord, still may
Mhm.
sound a little. It may tweak a rock player's ear a little too much, you know.
Yes, but it's funny, they rock players often have this perception of jazz. Yeah, if you play a couple of weird notes, that's jazz. Not really. Not really. It's that the harmony of the music is more advanced, and
Exactly.
thus the lines are more advanced, because a good jazz player ties in the lines within the harmony.
Right. Yeah.
So, and also it's kind of funny when people ask me what scales, what are your favorite scales, or what scales do you play, or what scales do you choose? And I don't choose them. The
Yeah.
scales are being chosen for me by the music.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of this thing where I have a 251 in C. I can't really choose what to play over that because the music has already decided.
Yeah.
I mean, I can decide to play F sharp Hungarian minor over that, but it's probably going to sound like poop.
Yeah.
And not every good note that sounds outside is actually good. There's good outside playing, and there's good bad outside playing. To me, that's not outside. That's just playing, as you said, playing the extensions and
Exactly.
the alterations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of that's kind of a misconception of people in the rock world.
Right. Right. Oh, that's cool. Now, talking about switching, like going from rock to jazz and that, you do a great job even within an improv. Like
Yeah.
you'll be playing a rock pentatonic thing, and it sounds authentic. It doesn't sound like a jazz guy playing a rock thing. But then when you go into a fusion line or a jazz-inspired line, that also sounds authentic. It doesn't sound like a rock guy trying to throw in, like you said, just weird notes to make it sound jazz. So can you talk a little bit about like the thought process, if there is a thought process, or it just became so much a part of your vocabulary that it, and if it did become just so much part of your vocabulary, how did you go about achieving that?
Mm-hmm. It's definitely what you said, letter. It's an honest appreciation for both worlds.
Yeah,
That makes me become
great.
that. Again, I don't say, oh, I gotta use the jazz here, I gotta use the blues here, I gotta use the rock here. I don't. When I solo, I don't think in those terms really. I just think of whatever I want to hear and I try to make it happen. And because I listened to a ton of rock in my time and a ton of jazz in my time, my inner ear expects those things.
Right.
It kind of desires and wants me to do those things. So it's a natural thing. I don't, and I guess that's why, as you say, it doesn't sound like a jazz guy trying to play rock, and it doesn't sound like a rock guy trying to play jazz, because I have a real appreciation for both of those worlds.
Right. It's more authentic as opposed to a mental idea of, okay, if I want to be perceived as an advanced player, I got to be able to throw in some jazz stuff or whatever, Sometimes
I mean, both some rock purists and some jazz purists would disagree that it's authentic, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, yeah, but there's conviction behind it, and it does not, at least to me, everyone has personal taste. It does not sound like someone just trying out a new scale over this, or you know what I mean? It sounds intentional, and it sounds like you mean what you're playing. And to me, I would think that you have to internalize that. You have to internalize the different sounds, and because a pentatonic, a minor pentatonic over a 5 chord, a dominant chord, has that rock feel, but there's still some tweaks with that minor third if you want to bend that up, and it creates a certain vibe or a certain feel. And like you said, your ear expects that, or if that's what you want to express there, you have to know what tools to pull out to do that. Same with throwing in passing tones, or making a 5 chord, which they're not playing a 7th, just its function is 5, but it's regular major chord. If you, with your line, you kind of make that like a 7 sharp 9 chord with your line, it still creates a certain vibe, and you have to internalize that for it to sound like you meant it, as opposed to, I'm just trying this,
Yeah, it comes down to having listened to that stuff a lot.
Yeah.
Because you can tell somebody, hey, on the 4th bar of blues, target the flat 9. But they're not going to target it correctly. It's like you teach somebody a single phrase in a foreign language. It's just a trick, but he doesn't have a true understanding of that foreign language.
Oh, that's a great example.
I can tell you, Guten Tag, wie geht's Ihnen? I can teach you that, and that doesn't mean you know German. You don't even know what the individual words mean, and why they have those endings and not other endings.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great analogy.
I guess it's that kind of thing. If it's a foreign language to you, you will tell by the accent that you have.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Now, on your album, The Other End, you've touched on so many different styles, and as I said before, with such expertise. as a listener, I have to wonder, okay, now where do you go? Like you touched on all this. Is like, are you gonna venture off into a more focused thing, like in one direction? Or are you gonna just
Yeah.
keep that expanded? Are there gonna be vocals on it now that you're singing?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what's in store?
yeah. You made a totally correct observation. I kind of crammed everything in that album that I wanted to do. I mean, there's like, for Christ's sake, there's like a classical chamber music type duet between electric guitar and piano on there and
Yeah,
stuff. It's really, and then there's an acoustic piece played, like an acoustic jazz piece, and there's a metal 7-string one.
yeah.
There's some electronic music, and I kind of had to get it out of my system, all of this, for the
It
first album.
it makes for a great listening experience, though. At least personally, I love the diversity, and I do similar on my albums where it's a wide range.
I
But
think you either hate that or you love that. I think it either makes or breaks the album.
yeah,
Because as a listener, that might be a big turnoff for you because the flow changes are pretty extreme.
yeah,
But what I tried to do, I tried to make it all cohesive by using the same guitar tone on the entire album.
yeah,
So I used the same type of guitar tone on the metal tune that I use on the jazz and fusion tunes, etc.
right,
To give it that same like sonic impression at least.
exactly,
While the musical content is wildly different, at least the sonic spectrum is very much identical, which I guess makes it sound like a bit more cohesive.
exactly. Yeah,
Even the rhythm section. I mean, we used a different drum setup for every song, and we used different microphones and mic positions to make it authentic for that style. But to make that sound like one record was actually pretty much the biggest challenge. And as I said, I got that out of my system. And I think the next record is going to be much more focused,
yeah.
and
Okay,
definitely going to be vocal heavy.
yeah, that's cool.
That's what I'm studying for. So I'm actually thinking right now. I haven't really started composing. I have like 10 minutes worth of ideas that I got lying around. But if anything, I'm gonna make it very much a studio record because
Yeah,
the previous record it's set out to be able to play those tunes live, and with even I designed it to be able to play it with changing players. So a lot of those tunes are kind of, the arrangements are pretty open for interpretation.
right,
So so I could, at the time I wanted to travel around and play those songs with different local bands.
right. Gotcha.
And the second one is going to be, I think, more produced, more overdubbed, more layered, a bit more of a sonic experience than a guitaristic experience.
Gotcha.
I
Yeah,
hope.
yeah.
I'm thinking of Steven Wilson as kind of my role model for
Oh
this.
yeah,
Yeah, the whole singing plus guitar playing plus producing
yeah.
mixture is very appealing to me. I would say he's 50% producer, 25% guitar player, 25% vocalist, and I guess I'm 50% guitar player, 25% vocalist, 25% producer.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I'm kind of aiming for a different balance there, but his general idea and his general concept I really like.
Oh, that's cool. Cool. Now you had talked about the different musicians in some of the videos, the live performance of your tunes. You have a killer rhythm section, and they add so much to the song. Now, how much of the grooves and that approach was composed by you, and how much do you say this is the general idea, take it where you want it? You know, you had touched on that a little bit for...
Yeah. Very much depends on the song. For example, you have a tune like Fresh Ducks that is a disco groove.
Yeah.
And if the drummer plays anything but...
Yeah.
I'll kick him out the room.
Gotcha, yeah.
So, let's say I'm very particular about certain things and other things not so much. And it always depends on the song.
Right. So,
Like, a song like An End in Itself, there's so many small intricacies in there. You listen to that song and you just think, yeah, just groove it along. But if a drummer is just grooving along and is missing out on all those intricacies, I'll get pretty pissed off.
Yeah.
For example, Felix, the guy, he's not the guy who's in my videos. He's not playing on the records because I got to know him much later than that.
Gotcha.
But I invited him in the studio. On the record, there's Ricky Quagliato, who's a great Italian player, and my live recordings, there's Felix Lehrmann, who's a like genius level player from Germany, and he listens to those songs very carefully, and he understands what's important about it, and he keeps those intricacies, and then he just has fun with it.
Yeah.
I can tell if somebody is just playing along mindlessly and just reacting, or if he's actually anticipating.
Right.
And you know how they always say, it's such a cliche thing, they always say, yeah, what I look for in a drummer is a great groove.
Yeah.
I don't even look for that. I assume that.
Gotcha. That has to be there before everything else.
Why even play drums? You know?
Yeah.
Why? What I really look for is somebody who anticipates the music, who's not just reacting to it.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, and as I said, it depends on the music. With my music on my previous album, there's a lot of improvisational sections where they can do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The next album might be a bit more on the composed side, where I'm very particular about certain grooves, about certain placements of the snare and the bass drum.
Yeah.
And I mean, even for the first album in the studio, we kind of zoomed in on certain things, on certain parts so much. Can you play that again, but this time hit that crash instead of the other?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That happens, you know.
It's funny because when you get that deep into it, especially when you're the one composing it, you know from where it comes and the vibe and the feel that you want. And it may sound silly to other people, but a different crash has a different aggression possibly than another crash. And all that stuff, it makes, you know where it comes from, so you know what you're looking for. Other people may not have that insight to the song.
Yeah, that's why you need to find the right people to play your music.
Yeah.
And that's why choosing your musicians is a part of composition.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Like Miles Davis, whose music was so improvisational, some of his tunes you can write on half a piece of paper as far as the initial spark and material that they improvise over goes.
Yeah.
But his biggest biggest compositional choice would be to choose the right piano player for it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm very careful about who I choose for what songs, and that's actually why my album took so long to do, because at the time I didn't have the right players. And only when I went to Musikmesse in like 2010 or 2011, I saw Federico Malaman, the bass player, play, and I was like, that's the guy. And I contacted him, and he happened to know a drummer who also happened to be the guy.
Oh, that's great.
So, and that's when because some of the tunes I've been playing with local bands for a couple of years before that, and it never sounded like I imagined it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there would be no sense in telling them, can you buy a completely different drum set? Can you play this completely different, please? I would just get the drummer that has the right drum kit and that plays like I imagine it from scratch, and then we just talk about details.
Exactly. That's one thing that I find with myself is if you find a player whose approach you enjoy, there's a lot less communication needed. Yeah. So it works out nice.
And it's funny, those two drummers I work with, like Ricky, the guy in my album.
Yeah.
He's the guy who sits down with me and really checks things out and really gets into the details. And Felix is the kind of polar opposite of that. He's a very intuitive guy. He just comes and he plays, and every take will be radically different.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't enjoy as much telling him chaining him and telling him exactly what to play. And whatever drummer I choose, it will be what I think is best for the project.
Right. Yeah.
Because I know their approach is vastly different, and that's great. I have those two people and other people, of course, too, I want to work with. I have those people to draw from.
Yeah, that's great.
And instead of forcing my approach onto somebody else, I'll find somebody who has the right approach for what I think is the right approach from scratch.
Yeah, that's great. Now, with this new CD being more vocal, let's talk a little bit about your newfound talent. Like, is this something that you consciously shied away from in the past, and then all of a sudden, like, what inspired you to take this on and do such a great job in, from what I believe is a relatively short time. I think I heard you say like a year and a half or something like that, that you've been singing.
Early 2016.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, can you talk about what inspired you to start singing and how you went about making such quick gains? You know.
My girlfriend has a huge passion for John Mayer.
Gotcha.
And I saw how she admired him. I guess I got a little jealous and I wanted to show her.
Yeah. You're like, I can do that, man.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of came from that place, this alpha male attitude. But what always made me shy away from even trying was thinking I didn't have it.
Yeah.
I always thought I didn't have it. It's like the speed thing. You hit that wall and you think there's no way I can get past it. I always thought my voice is so limited. There's nothing it can do. And then I just tried and I just started yelling around a little bit and I noticed, wow, the voice does go up there.
Yeah.
And from there I started taking vocal lessons and it's kind of the same with guitar. It went from screaming to a more elaborate.
Yeah. And now you've even incorporated like that Dream Theater cover. When I saw that, I'm like, wow, he's nailing different styles. Like it's a different placement of the voice, different approach when you're hitting the high, real crystal clear stuff, and then you add that vocal distortion. Those are different approaches, and that's not always something that comes natural to people. So how did you go about, again, was this sort of methodical, like you had exercises for the guitar? Do you have a lot of exercises vocally that you do?
I'm a technical guy by default. I'm into logic and those things. I don't like when things happen and I can't explain them. Some people are okay when the magic happens and I want to know what the magic is.
That way you can repeat it, you know?
Yes, exactly. I don't want it to be by chance. I really want it to, yeah, exactly. The distortion thing I stumbled upon when I recorded the cover of We Are the Champions. It's just for my own enjoyment. I went really all out and did, like, I had a friend record the choir and I did like 12 guitar tracks or something. Maybe at some point I'll release it, but I did it pretty much for my own enjoyment. And I had this like, there's that part in it.
Yeah.
And I wanted that line to become more aggressive as it goes up. And that's how I discovered to do what you call hyperglottal compression.
Yeah.
By trying to get it more angry as the line goes by is how I stumbled how to activate those muscle groups up here.
Yeah.
To get that sound, I was like, holy shit, that sounds awesome. I didn't know my voice could do that. And then I'm still not doing that correctly, by the way. I wouldn't encourage anybody to try to copy that. I'm still not doing it 100% efficiently. Or not even 50% efficiently. I still have to learn to do that more carefully. So I only have that. I can do that for a certain amount, and then I have to tone it back a little bit. Yeah. I'm still not there because I still have to get my throat more open and my support more efficient before that becomes a thing that I can do repeatedly over and over, night after night.
Now, did you find it difficult to find vocal teacher that you felt comfortable with? Because I think teaching vocal is a lot more difficult. I've been a professional musician for many years, and I never sang. I didn't want to sing. It's just like me. And then about 2 years ago, I moved across the country, and although the pool of musicians here, there's a lot of great, talented musicians, but the pool is smaller, so everyone's involved in different things. I'm like, well, I can't rely on a bass player to sing, or I can't, because I have to use various bass players for my shows. So it's like, I got to do this. So it was consistency for me that made me even be able just to like get by, you know. I'm still working on it, but I can't find.
You sound great. I listened.
Oh, well, thanks. But
you're probably better singer than me, so.
Oh, no. But one thing,
trust me.
one thing that I find very difficult is, like, as a guitar player, like, and as a guitar teacher, you can see what your student's doing, and you can see the hand movement, and you can explain to them, and you can show them, and they can see you. You can't see the internal workings of it, so it's very difficult to translate that to. And I've taken voice lessons in the past that I didn't feel like I got anything out of. I went through millions of YouTube videos, tutorials.
Don't. I mean,
And
you think there's a lot of crap out there
yeah,
in the guitar world? There's a ton more crap out there in the vocal world.
yeah,
It's insane.
I found one exercise that seemed to help me with my placement, and that
Mhm.
one exercise is what I did on a consistent basis. And I'm like, wow, I'm almost singing in key now. So that was a big plus. And then
Where did you get that?
it was I can't even remember it. It was, but basically for me, and I'm not saying this would work for everyone, it was the NG sound, just using that to go up. Yeah, exactly. To go up and down the scales. And that helped me with my placement. And it actually helped me hear the pitch better because it was further front. And I was able to sing better in tune. And then I found, like, after a month or so of practicing that and singing songs, I had control to make different sounds in my voice. Maybe add a little distortion, which wasn't there before. I think my muscles were not developed enough to engage, or at least I wasn't familiar. But that's the tricky stuff. How do you find a teacher who is in such tune with hearing what's coming out to know how to explain it?
Yeah, and also who's a teacher that understands what you're trying to do?
Yeah,
Because I had a teacher that pretty much did her own thing, like a standard program, and she let me sing like tunes like My Funny Valentine, and
yeah,
I mean that's cool, but that's not really what I wanted to do.
yeah,
I like to be very versatile with the guitar. I don't give a damn about versatility with the voice. I just want to sing rock music.
yeah, yeah,
That's all I want to do. And she didn't really support that. Luckily, I'm in a much better place now. I got a teacher now, or actually two teachers that I take lessons with, that both understand that I like to have a certain athleticism to my
yeah,
singing, and they support that instead of trying to force what they think is better for me onto me, but they support what I do. Yeah, that's tough. You definitely need to find somebody who is on the same page as you are. And I think that the difference in tuition is that it relies much more on sensations
yeah,
than
yeah,
anything else. So they have to tell you, and they have to give, you have to imagine the sound going over your head when they try to teach you. So those kind of things, or
yeah.
try to feel the buzz in the front of your nose and in the front teeth, and those kind of things.
Yeah, it's
Different.
tricky, and but now with you learning this new skill, and like you said, you like to get into the details in that. Do you find that that might be something you, as far as teaching goes, you might start adding vocal lessons to your? Now you don't have a desire to teach that.
No, it's not that I don't have the desire. I'm just not qualified. I'm just a hobby singer, really.
Yeah, yeah,
And with vocal lessons, there you put your student to a certain degree at a risk of health,
yeah.
and I would not take responsibility for that.
Right, gotcha.
Just because I found a couple things that work for me doesn't mean I'm qualified enough. I just know my limitations there.
Right, gotcha. Well, now let's move on to this whole internet thing. Like, you've developed a great internet presence to the point where that can help you build an income from that. Can you talk about how that came to be, and did you have a set plan, or how you went about achieving to get where you are now?
In January 2010, I graduated from college, and then went right into teaching, not too much, maybe like 2 days a week, at a private music school. Not so great pay. And all of a sudden, not having that scheduled lifestyle anymore that you have in college just threw me into a big hole.
Yeah,
Like, I didn't know what to do with myself. And for the better part of 6 months, I was just lying on my bed playing computer games. Didn't know what to do with myself, really, and it was depressing. And I was playing gigs and I was teaching, and at some point I thought, this has to stop. And I didn't accepted no more gigs, like cover gigs, gala gigs, that kind of thing. None more. And I also quit music school, or toned it down to like 1 day a week, just enough to buy food. And luckily, my father supported that, and he still kept paying me rent for a little while.
Oh, great.
So I very much appreciate that. And from there, I did nothing but worry about my own career.
Gotcha.
And that, of course, I lived a very, very simple lifestyle at the time. But that enabled me to just spend the entire day working on my record, for example.
Yeah.
So that was the time when I really worked on my record very hard. And also started doing videos, bought a decent camera, started doing a couple of videos, not in a religious way, not like people like Rob Chapman, who I did it as an additional thing. But things started picking up a little bit. Got a Facebook account, started posting there, those kind of things. And the big break happened, I guess, in early 2011 when Gem Track Central approached me. No, sorry, that was late 2011. It was that long. They approached me to do, at the time, Gem Track Central didn't have a lot of artists. They had Jack Tamarad, Guthrie Govan, Alex Hutchings, just like a handful of guys. And they wanted to expand their business. And I was actually the first guy after that first generation of players to be doing stuff for them. And that really made a giant difference in my career, because from then on, I had a passive income.
Oh, yeah,
Release a product, would have a passive income, and I could go further down the line of being creative and doing those kind of things. And from there, I could really afford to be working on my own stuff full time. Yeah. So that was the big break, and then just build it. You know, people assume that I'm a massive YouTube guy when really I'm not. Most of what I do daily happens offline.
Yeah.
You know, I do session work, I do mixing work, I produce other artists, I edit videos, I teach, I work at music college, those kind of things. I play the occasional gig, I play clinics, I travel around the world, do those kind of things. I do all kinds of stuff, and most of it does not involve online activity.
Right.
But I always try to keep it going and try to have that as an additional pole of my career in case another pole falls down. So,
but
yeah.
Do you feel that having that presence, though, also feeds the clinics and people approaching you for that? Yeah.
You know what? Every job and every sort of income that I've had in the past, say 5 years, was in one way or another related to my online presence.
Yeah, that's great.
Even when they asked me, you know, my ex-professors, when they asked me to start teaching at Dresden College of Music, we haven't been in, by that time, we haven't been in touch for 3 to 4 years. But they knew what was going on due to my online presence.
Right.
And they might have not asked me if I didn't have that online presence that showed them, yeah, he's doing well.
Yeah, that's great. Very cool.
They didn't hire, I'm sure they didn't hire me for my popularity, but they hired me for the fact that I have an active career and that I'm pursuing things and that I'm keeping busy and that I'm keeping my skills up and those kind of things.
Yeah, great.
So in one way or another, those things are all related to that, and I'm well aware of that. That's why I keep doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing it full time. It's not like oh my God, I have to do 2 videos a week. I do it whenever I feel like it. For me, it's a flow thing. For me, it's a intuition thing, an inspirational thing.
Yeah, gotcha.
When I want to do something, I do it, and when I don't feel like it, I'm not forcing myself to it. Like, I'm not one of those hardcore gear review people.
Right.
I don't write companies and I don't chase them down to send me gear to review or stuff like that. If it happens, if somebody approaches me, I'll think about it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't happen, that's cool. I'm decent at gear reviews. I'd probably like to do them more, but if it doesn't happen, I got a ton of other stuff to keep me busy.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's a good place to be for sure. Yeah. So, what does the future hold for you? Like, do you have any tours coming up? Or is it just focusing on writing the next CD, or what's the plan for the next 2 years or so?
Okay, let's start with the next couple months. I just finished mixing a record for a local band from Leipzig, kind of like a modern cutting edge metal project. It's called Beat, BIID.
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's going to come out soon. I also took part in a live in the studio session of theirs. I played a guest solo for the record, but I mixed the whole thing, which was a year worth of work, honestly.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to expose that side of myself a lot more. I want to be doing a lot of mixing work,
Right.
not just playing guitar playing. I want to do that, and I hope that project puts that kind of part of my of what I do more in the spotlight a little bit. I know I present myself very much as only a guitar player, but there's a lot more that I do, and I hope that helps. I'm finishing up my girlfriend's record,
Oh,
which
cool.
should be out in the next 2 to 3 months or so. I've mixed that, arranged that, played electric guitar on it, took part in all the recording sessions for drums, bass, keyboards, etc. So that was I did a ton of work for that.
Yeah.
Hope it's going to come out soon, and when all of that is done, actually, I'm going to the studio next week for another batch of live in the studio videos with my own band.
Oh, okay, great.
And when that is done, when all these things are done, I'm going to start writing a new record.
Ah, all right,
And
cool.
parallel to that, I'm probably going to be doing another masterclass for Jam Track Central, improvisational-based tuitional material.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so within the next 2 years, I hope to have a record, hope to have at least 2 to 3 new volumes for my improvisational masterclass. There's something very nice happening in the Ibanez camp that I cannot talk about right now, but I will be able to talk about it as time goes by, and I hope that is going to keep me employed a little.
That's cool.
Yeah, but I cannot talk about that. But you'll see. I think the next year is going to be pretty busy. So.
Oh, that's great. That's very cool. Well,
yeah, whatever comes up, I'm happy to do it. I always enjoy playing with other players, and I would love to go on tour more, because my touring schedule has been a bit dry this year. It has been much better the 2 years before that, but hey, you never know.
Yeah. Do you have anything with Tom Quayle coming up?
Yes, actually, that I forgot. We're gonna hook up in November. He's gonna come down, and we're gonna go to the studio again with my band and record a ton of material, also some duo material, because we have a great program. We work very hard to get a duo program down. We never really filmed it properly, so it's time to do that. That's going to be in November, and then it takes 1 or 2 months to edit it.
Right. Now,
so by the end of the year, we're probably going to have some sweet material together. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Now, when I interviewed Tom, he was saying that every time you guys can, like during NAMM, you have like a secret hotel room jam.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I'm on the list for that this year.
I'm sure I'm sure we're going to do that next year, because this year I didn't attend NAMM, but
right. Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to do it next year. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be great.
I'll hook you up with a ticket.
All right. That sounds great. Well, it was definitely a pleasure, man. Great talking to you. I've been a fan for quite a while. One thing that draws me to players like yourself and Tom and Rick Graham and a lot of the other players like Gretchen Menn, Neely Brosh, all those players have technique, but it's their compositions and their approach, their musicality that really draws me in, and you definitely have it. It's been a pleasure watching your videos and listening to you the past couple years, and now to get a chance to talk to you, it's been great. So I thank you, man. All right.
Thank you very much. It's a great channel you have. You should all check it out more. There's a ton of great stuff on there.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you. Well, I appreciate it, and hope to see you playing live soon, man.
Yeah, I hope so too.
All right. Sounds
Thanks, man.
great.